Hello and welcome everybody. Welcome to our 28 for 28 podcast series. So the 28 for 28 campaign is dedicated to inspiring and empowering young individuals to act on climate change, and our mission is to amplify their amazing voices and stories and showcasing them as role models. So through this platform we aim to provide a space where their work can be recognized and celebrated. And today we have with us as our host Sneha Shahi and as our Changemaker Neha Jain. So over to you, Sneha, to take this forward.
Thank you so much, and a lovely opportunity and initiative by Mash. To bringing all the mentors and the students together, from each other. So, without any further ado, thank you everyone for tuning into our podcast today. We have with us Neha, and Neha is a passionate learner and a change maker. I've spoken to her at multiple intervals through different campaigns, different talks that keep happening, and it's always wonderful to see more women on change maker and conservation panels. It really warms my heart. Neha is someone who also, like me, works on the climate change, inclusive education, and the intersection of generation and gender inequality, and with different stakeholders, of course, and organizations. And the heart of her story lies in her deep connection with nature, her motivation to act, and the conviction that she has to, lead people towards creating positive on-ground action. She has engaged with the UNICEF India as a youth co-content creator and also selected as the Women Leadership and Sustainability Program Fellow for 2023-24 by UNESCO and Women at the Earth. From climate education at the grassroots to the urban forest conservation and promoting sustainable menstrual hygiene. She is leaving no stone unturned and making positive difference everywhere she goes. And going forward, she aspires to bring unheard stories in the forefront and continue collaborative action with sustainability and empathy at its heart. So Neha, all over to you, and thank you for agreeing to do this.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all the kind words, and I'm so happy to be speaking to you today. As you said rightly, I've been very passionate about working on this intersection. I started volunteering while I was 15, and from that point onwards, I realized I started from a very intersectional space. Teaching at slums, construction sites, and interacting with the communities. So that is how I realized that how we know that there's a global issue, climate change, global warming, and all of the challenges. However, the grassroots implications and impacts, they are really severe and also very intersectional in terms of geography, gender, also coming from different classes, and the diversity that we have in India. So I started off from there, and I currently am also pursuing graduation in applied psychology from Delhi University, and I feel that there's a strong connect between this intersection of climate, education, gender with the attitudinal shift that we want to bring, because it's not only about a change at the surface level or advocating, but also making sure that there's a behavioral change and attitudinal shift at the end. So I think just exploring through all of it and navigating through this journey, I'm currently leading Climate Ready and engaging with UNICEF India. And most recently, I've founded a passion project of mine called Empower for grassroots storytelling, to tell stories from the grassroots, from different parts of India, and lead collaborative and multi-stakeholder action like we are together today. So I think this is the way forward, and I'm really excited to take this conversation forward with you.
Yeah, that is indeed again holistic, and this is a wonderful opportunity where I don't get to answer, but I get to question because generally I'm on the other end of things. So the most important question. So you do all this interdisciplinary work, and you do all these so many initiatives. My God, how are you doing all of this? Can you tell us what led you to this? What was your journey of starting with conservation and then now becoming a change maker?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, before going into the details of what I do, I think it's important to share why I do what I do. So I think I would take it through, like, take you through that from a different sort of way. So I'd like you to close your eyes and imagine सुबह का चढ़ना, पंछियों का उड़ना, छांव का मिलना, सूरज का ढलना, टहनियों का झुकना, झील का बहना, हवा का चलना, पानी का झरना, किसे अच्छा नहीं लगता। चलो विकृति से प्रकृति की ओर चलते हैं। You can open your eyes, and this is what led me to what I'm doing. Uh, that deep connection with nature. As a child, I was born in Ranchi, Jharkhand, and it is called the city of waterfalls. It is full of natural treasure. And I grew up in Delhi, which is one of the highest polluted cities in the world with a lot of environmental challenges. So I think when that deep connection with nature met the awareness of emergency, a climate emergency all around, especially as a young person, just to be in pandemic, that was a real eye opener, I would say, because I could really see that, okay, we talk about air pollution, but that was a peak point where I could see that, okay, if we need oxygen cylinders, if the pollution rises to that level that we require oxygen cylinders, etc., and the lack that we saw in pandemic, I think that really shook me, because I was also on ground during the peak of 2021 when it was the worst time. I saw everything happening in front of my eyes. It was extremely heartbreaking. I also lost a very close one. But I just realized that if it is so hard to lose even one person, and we are seeing this crisis all around. People are suffering from a lack of oxygen, a lack of essentials, medical aid. So that is when I resolved that I wanted to go on ground and do whatever bit that I could do, taking resilience and taking strength from that. So yeah, after pandemic, I started like intensively working on all of the projects. And as you just also mentioned, I distribution of sanitary pads, going for menstrual hygiene awareness, standing up for forest conservation. We have a forest just nearby my house, and I'm really lucky to have that. But at the same time, it is degrading. It has become a waste dumping ground. So that is how I started reaching out to local duty bearers and writing complaint letters, and learning how to actually go about RTIs and petitions, etc. So it's been a learning curve while taking action, and I'm really grateful to be on this journey. And currently, as you also mentioned, that I'm leading Climate Ready. So it is basically it stands for Climate Representation, Education and Action with Delhi Youth. And what we are trying to do is integrate climate education and action in the Delhi government schools. So right now we are doing a very exciting pilot wherein we have 4 pillars of action, or one where we are trying to firstly integrate climate curriculum through the eco club model, which is already prevalent, but again it died down due to pandemic. So we are reviving and activating the eco clubs and integrating the climate curriculum through that space, which is very hands-on, practical, project-based. Second pillar is building the leadership, so that students not only learn about it, they can also act and take the leadership of their own communities, of their own schools, and also come on ground with their action projects. Third is representation. So we often go to these conferences and different events, but we often find that this discourse is not well represented in terms of diversity, in terms of having marginalized youth and their voices at the front. So the idea is also to build the capacity of students in order for them to come ahead in these voices, in these platforms, whether it be national, global level, platforms. So they come ahead and speak about their stories, speak about their demands, and also, collaborate with the stakeholders for different kinds of action. So this is how we are going forward with Climate Ready. And yeah, I'm aiming to hopefully leave no stone unturned, but at the same time I'm also learning a lot.
So it's so true. Like pandemic really brings forth the problems that seem so minimal of access to basic resources like water, oxygen, food, such basic things which people do go through on a day-to-day basis without. But in the pandemic, when everyone was leveled at the same, to access these resources, that's when people started to recognize that these problems are not done. They still persist. They're getting worse and worse. So I hope more people got inspired by that to consume less, produce more action, work together, bring communities together like how you have done. And then again, like how environment education is at the heart of creating grassroots conservationists. It's a wonderful initiative that you and your team are doing. But as we discuss this journey of yours, we know that every road has its ditches, bumps, speed breakers. What have been the challenges, or rather the obstacles that you have had to face, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah. Well, since you are also like a change maker and inspiration, you would have faced the similar challenges and even more that you're well aware about. So I think for me, challenges are internal as well as like external. When I, say internal, I think it's been really a learning curve in the sense I was a really shy and introverted child. I couldn't speak in public, and I didn't have as much confidence as I have today. So I think firstly those internal conflicts, the self doubt whether or not I will be able to do it. Often people say that when you work for community, it's a very selfless job or a selfless role. But I think for me, I think I've been able to find myself through the work that I've done. The path is often so involuntary. Like we go to school and then college, and the path is already defined in some fashion for us. That we often forget that how important is to take voluntary choices. So I think volunteering in its own like terminology, it says doing something out of free will. So when I actually did something for myself, when I started volunteering at 15, and doing something that I like to do and sharing something that I knew at that point. So I think that led me to building that sense of self esteem. And going forward, I think externally as well, there are often challenges to build a team, to raise funds and resources for the projects that we are doing, to continuously collaborate and engage meaningfully, and make sure that you're not falling in the trap of sort of let's say superficial or a byproduct of what the work should be. So I think making sure that the work is authentic and genuine, I think that there's a constant back and forth in that. And then also sort of pushing that kind of cooperation from other stakeholders. While you are doing your bit, how to ensure that the other stakeholders are also coming together and supporting you for whichever different project that you are doing. And yeah, I think even today, I think at personal level, I would say that there are often questions. You mentioned that it's great to see women and girls, and people say that, okay, what's so big about it? But I think in very small ways and big ways, I think there is this bias and discrimination that is existing. And even at personal level, I've heard a lot of comments on age and gender, that what would you be able to do, you're such young, and you cannot, okay, you can do it, but then you cannot make career out of it. So just find something else. So just comments like these. And yeah, I think at a larger level, you also see a lot of ironies all around while you are working for climate, but we are all surrounded by so many realities which are not supportive or not aligned to what we think, despite we believe in it strongly. So I think all of it combined, there are a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, passion overpowers.
Indeed, it does. And I completely agree with you when you say that to people it might think, oh, a girl is doing this. So what? We are all empowered now. We are not actually. We might feel that we have access to more resources. People have become more open minded to accepting women in positions of power. But I feel it still needs to take root. It still needs to be highlighted that there are many of us out there who do not have the opportunity to, speak our mind, do what we want to do with passion. And this constant question from a lot of people, not cynical, but why are you doing this? It is always going to be there. Why are you doing it? What are you doing? Who are you doing this for? And it's always important to hear these questions and remind yourself that I am doing this because this is important. This is what leads change. If this might not lead into a huge career, I can be a lawyer, I can still continue doing something. I can be a doctor and still continue doing something for the environment. But to continue to do something is what I have in common with all these world leaders who want to make a change. I just don't want to sit in a cubicle and work, but I want to go out there and get my hands dirty and just do it.
Yeah.
Right? So when we talk about getting our hands dirty, can you tell us a little bit more about your initiative that you have started, which is Climate Ready and Empower?
Definitely. So, as I mentioned, Climate Ready, well, it started very recently, and I talked about the four pillars of action that we have: climate education, action, leadership, and representation. With these four pillars of action in place, now, how do they look like when we are going on ground? So, I would just like to firstly share an anecdote. When we first went to the pilot school that we are currently working in, I asked students, what is environment? What do you mean by it? And no one responded to it. You know, um, that, okay, yeah, we've heard about it, but we don't know exactly how to define it. And then I realized that, firstly, we'll interpret it at a like a surface level. We'll see, okay, it's lack of awareness. But when you take a moment and step back, and when I thought, I think instead of being lack of awareness, it's about lack of our effort to meet where they are. The school that we are dealing with is a Hindi medium school. And then when I asked, okay, पर्यावरण क्या होता है, आपको क्या पता है उसके बारे में, and when you meet people where they are, instead of expecting them to meet you where you are at, and standing at a pedestal, I think it's very important to connect. And that is how the bonding started, and they opened up about what they knew, what local environmental challenges that they faced. And from there, from not knowing, again, at the same time, we also needed to ensure that they also know the basic terminologies, while we are going a bottom up approach where we are trying to understand from them what they know, but we also understand that it's important to connect that with the terminologies that are existing, so that they can also speak out their voices and understand the concept more holistically. So from there to now, they have actually been featured in also a UNICEF India's Youth Day campaign. At Elcoy recently, they also drafted a list of recommendations for the leaders, and we also sent it to Elcoy for making it more inclusive. um, and that is how we continue to work on this model. We did an environmental leadership boot camp, and it has three phases: learn, act, and impact. So first 3 days we told them about different capacity building sessions. We invited youth change makers, youth led organizations who were doing work on ground, so they conducted different kinds of sessions. The next 3 days were more of field exposure. We took them to biodiversity park, composting sites, to actually see how it's done. And in fact, many of the students took back the composting method, and they also tried it in their own homes, and got back that we are so happy that our khad is being prepared by our own hands every day. And then the last 3 days were more about impact and leadership building. So did sessions and trainings on that, and we eventually concluded with a debate competition where they could actually deliberate and contradict and sort of make that stimulation possible for themselves. So in this way we started off, and now we are doing weekly sessions, and they're also engaging in their life projects and making a circular economy model of sorts in their own school by creating a vegetable garden, installation of composting pit, and rainwater harvesting system. So all of it is happening simultaneously, but the enthusiasm is such that it also pushes us to, step up and do more. So yeah, that's been about Climate Ready.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It's not just about action, but also developing soft and hard skills for these students, which will come in handy, in life, no matter what they end up doing. So that is wonderful. Now, coming to the question of inspiration, I know for a fact we get asked a lot, like, who inspires you? But I would love it if someone would just ask me what inspires you. So, to you, I ask, who or what inspires you the most?
Thank you so much. Um, as I think I can't state it enough, but nature really inspires me at the core. Yes, we seek motivation from a lot of people around, like, all of you. I mean, it is so great to have a platform like this where I can connect with mentors and people like you who are working so intensively into it. And that really motivates me. But at the heart of it, I feel very deeply nature really inspires me. And it's not just for the sake of saying, but I just feel that when I am with nature, I mean, the air, wind, breeze, earth, soil, I think I feel one with nature and very powerful and humble at the same time. You see your tree, and I mean, it has been a greatest guide whenever you feel like you cannot do it, or you won't be able to do it, and you look at any element of nature, for example tree, and you see that okay, a tree has also achieved heights while it is still rooted so deeply. So why can't it happen for me? Or for example, sometimes we feel that okay, I'm so flawed, but then you see at nature, you look at nature and you see that nothing is symmetrical in nature. Everything has rough patches or it's unsymmetrical, but still we find so much beauty in it. But why not in ourselves? So I think nature, and it has been a very deep inspiration for me. And also while I travel, the conversations with the local grassroots people, I think that also inspires me, and it has also led to the project Empower that I have recently founded. Those stories, those conversations, those emotions, I think has led to the project, which also makes me think and question myself a lot of times, and realign and sort of shift priorities. But yes, I think apart from all of this, I would say that this really inspires me to do what I'm doing.
Wonderful. And as you know, all the climate discussions, all the negotiations, the world leaders are going to get together for COP28. So if you were to give a message to, the world leaders, what would that message be?
Yeah, thank you for that. And if I were to just say it in one phrase, I think I would say, please become ecocentric rather than being egocentric. And when I say that, it really has a strong sense of um, responsibility with it. It is not just telling them what to do and what not to do, but it is also assuring the world leaders, while we are demanding a lot of action which is immediately required, we are also, as youth, as young people, we are also there to collaborate and to implement those actions with the stakeholders. But we would need that cooperation and collaborative spirit from them. And in terms of actionables, I think I would say, which is extremely important, implementation of a localized, intersectional, and holistic education and action framework. across the nation, and making green jobs accessible. Just not considering it as a voluntary service, but also incentivizing people who are working in this sector to let them make it financially sustainable for themselves as well, apart from just being socially and environmentally sustainable. So making that accessible would, I think, also encourage a lot more young people from all the backgrounds to come forward and work on this shared vision and purpose.
Yeah, that's so true. And so now these are the world leaders and the decision makers. What would then be your message to the younger people who are wanting to get there or who are just starting out?
I would say start small, but start. That is important. Show up for yourself, for your surroundings, for people around you. And the young people, I see a lot of young people who are really enthusiastic and are working a lot. I would also say that be kind to yourself. Do make sure that you are following your purpose, while also making sure that you are growing yourself with gentleness and kindness and empathy, a lot of empathy. So yeah, be kind to yourself and take small action. No action is actually small, I would say. So just take that step and reach out. If you are really confused, I think that's the best place, because somewhere, when we are extremely clear about what we want to do, we also confine ourselves to some limited options. So if you're confused, I think that's a great place to start. Explore, try different opportunities, and I'm sure you will find great mentors and people who would support you and show you the way. And I think I really am grateful to all my mentors, and I cannot just thank them enough, because my journey wouldn't have been this if it was not for my mentors. So I'm really also very grateful to my mentors. So always keep a lookout for the people who support you, and just be grateful to them.
Yeah. With gratefulness and grace at our heart, we are going to change the world for the good. Well, on that note, we come to the end of our podcast. And thank you so much, Neha, for bringing such enthusiasm, zeal, and love towards the things you do and joining us today, telling us your story, telling us your journey. And I hope you continue to inspire more and more people wherever you go and wherever you are. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you so much. It was amazing speaking to you, and believe me, you are really an inspiration. So it was great speaking to you.
Thank you. That's very gracious of you.
Thank you, Neha and Sneha. It was such an interesting conversation.